Startups spend months planning, building, and polishing in isolation, creating structures that look solid on paper. But when exposed to the live conditions of the market, these untested architectures routinely collapse under the first sign of real-world pressure. The most dangerous terrain in business creation is the volatile distance between a founder's initial idea and the arrival of the first actual revenue. The tech industry operates on a flawed heuristic, the assumption that you must build a polished product and a formal organizational chart before attempting to enter the market. Early-stage revenue is not the reward for building a business. It is the building process itself. Moving with directed speed allows a firm to extract cash long before competitors even recognize that market dynamics have shifted. Broad market visibility is a vanity metric. Focused, rapid execution pays the bills. In this early phase, cash flow is not a lagging financial metric. It is the only unforgeable signal of market truth. Without the hard proof of early cash flow, every internal business plan, projection, and roadmap remains a mere theory. Liquidity is the ultimate prerequisite for structural survival. Founders routinely trap themselves in endless development cycles, tweaking interfaces and adding features. This pursuit of product perfection is a disguised form of risk avoidance, delaying the uncomfortable reality of asking a customer for money. The economic cost of this delay is severe. Waiting for polish burns your limited internal capital to test assumptions that have never faced the scrutiny of a live market. The baseline rule of early market entry is strict. Release the narrowest, most unpolished form of an offer that is just strong enough to deliver a credible result and extract payment. This graph shows the inverse relationship between aesthetic readiness and runway. Increasing polish drains reserves long before you reach the market. Early, imperfect entry alters this trajectory. By bringing external money in early, your working capital periodically ticks upwards via micro-injections of cash. This creates a state of monetized learning. You use early customer receipts to finance all subsequent product iterations, letting the market fund your research and development. Early buyers in new or shifting markets are paying for speed, access, and immediate problem relief. They are not paying for technical elegance or a finished interface. Delaying entry for perfection starves the company of its most critical feedback mechanism. It turns internal improvement into an expensive substitute for commercial exposure. In the search for validation, founders fatally confuse general market attention and polite compliments with genuine economic demand. The strict rule of demand validation is that true demand only reveals itself when commercial friction is introduced into the conversation. You have to present pricing or contract terms to see if the interest holds. This diagram maps the hierarchy of validation. The wide top layer represents the overwhelming volume of useless market feedback, likes, compliments, and meeting requests. The dangerous middle ground is populated by prospects who engage enthusiastically but refuse to assume financial risk, demanding unpaid pilots or endless trials. The dense bottom tip isolates the only behaviors that constitute true market validation. These actions require the sacrifice of resources, advance payments, paid proofs of concept, and surviving price resistance. If a prospect disappears the moment a price is introduced, the perceived problem lacked actual economic priority. Real demand behaves differently. It survives delivery boundaries, asks detailed implementation questions, and actively pulls the transaction forward to accelerate a solution. Until a prospect navigates pricing friction and sacrifices capital, their interest is commercially meaningless. Acknowledging this protects you from building infrastructure on false hope. Targeting broad industries is a strategic error. Massive demographic labels conceal the highly uneven, localized economics of actual demand. To find traction, you must break apart these massive, confusing target markets into much smaller, highly distinct, and observable subgroups. The mapping process requires filtering the markets strictly by problem severity and dissatisfaction, rather than standard metrics like company size or vertical alignment. Your target objective is to locate the revenue pocket. A revenue pocket is a specific anomaly hidden inside a larger, neglected market space, where willingness to pay is unusually high. This graphic illustrates the noise of a standard market. Before commercial filters are applied, the total addressable market looks uniform and overwhelming. By identifying high operational pain and poor supplier fit, You strip away irrelevant targets until a single glowing cluster remains. The exact parameters of this isolated pocket are clear. It is a zone where a specific subgroup feels ignored by dominant suppliers, whose broad products do not fit their narrow workflows. The ultimate behavioral indicator of a revenue pocket is the presence of improvised substitutes. This is where buyers are actively wasting labor on expensive, manual fixes because current options fail them. Isolating this pocket allows a lean startup to extract immediate cash. You are redirecting money the buyer is already wasting, entirely bypassing the need to educate a broad market. Locating a severe problem is useless if the specific individual in the room lacks the authority to authorize payment on a short timeline. The core binary is simple. A problem without urgency is just a postponed discussion, while urgency without an accessible budget is merely operational frustration. This grid shows how to evaluate prospect viability. We plot budget availability on the horizontal axis and problem urgency on the vertical axis. The only quadrant that matters for early cash generation is to operate: immediate urgency and accessible budget. You must ruthlessly filter out long-term bureaucratic buyers. To test this, you employ consequence tracing. You force the buyer to articulate the exact financial or compliance cost they will suffer if they do nothing this month. On the budget side, you must actively avoid buyers tied to rigid procurement cycles or annual committee approvals. Those structures move too slowly for a startup's limited runway. Instead, target middle management buyers who hold discretionary operational budgets. These individuals can sign off on immediate, tightly scoped fixes without requesting permission from a board. Utilizing this matrix prevents a young company from filling its pipeline with intellectually positive but commercially dead conversations. It guarantees your effort is only spent on closable accounts. There is an intense temptation for new ventures to alter their offer to serve multiple different segments at once. Founders mistakenly believe a wider net provides more safety. But early ventures lack the capital, delivery depth, and operational systems to manage the extreme variation and friction created by a wide market approach. The structural solution to this is the narrow entry strategy. It dictates concentrating all your limited resources on a single point of attack. This diagram integrates the entire operational framework. It collapses your market map, urgency matrix, and validation pyramid into one concentrated, actionable directive. The 4 strict rules of this strategy ensure maximum relevance and minimal waste: one buyer, one problem, one offer, one sales path. This extreme narrowness accelerates pattern recognition. When identical objections and payment terms repeat across similar buyers, the startup has decoded the mechanics of demand. Once this first wedge is proven, the company earns the right, the credibility, and the working capital to expand into adjacent, more complex segments. Contrast this clinical, cash-led approach with the theatrical startup. They build a bloated organizational structure first, blindly hoping revenue will eventually rise to sustain it. Inject an imperfect product into a high-paying revenue pocket and let the hard, live behavior of paying customers dictate the final architecture of the business.